He is a young man who was born in 2006. His parents were legal professionals in Great Britain. When he was 2 years old, his father left the home and he was mainly raised by his mother. And this is important, by his maternal grandmother. In 2014, when he was approximately 8 years old, now this is what he said. This is what he said to the Gendarmerie of Villefranche. When he was approximately 8 years old in 2014, he was taken on holiday twice in Morocco, once for 1 month and once for 4 months. This is what he said. Now I will talk to you about the conditions in which he lived along with his mother and maternal grandfather throughout all of these years. So he's had 2 stays rather than holidays in Morocco. Then he returned to Great Britain, where he lived with his grandmother for 2 years, his mother having stayed in Morocco. There was a conflict between little Alex's mother, between her and her own mother, so Alex's maternal grandmother, because his maternal grandmother asked the legal authorities in Britain to have guardianship of this child, given that the mother was rather unstable. Once she obtained guardianship, the mother understood that she could no longer see her son, and then asked her own mother, the grandmother, whether she could spend 2 weeks in Spain over the summer in 2017. The grandmother who had guardianship over Alex accepted, and so this young man left with his mother and his grandfather to spend 2 weeks in summer 2018. He was about 10 years old at the time, so they went to Spain. At this time, the mother then spent 2 weeks in Spain, and then she went back to Morocco, and it was then that the British legal authorities deemed that he was being searched for, and from the 10th of August 2017, the police authorities and the British legal authorities sent out a search warrant for the mother, who had left with her son against the legal provisions who had conferred his guardianship to the grandmother. He spent approximately 2 years in Morocco in conditions that I will stipulate later. Then in the year 2020, between 2020 and 2021, when he was approximately 15 years old, he left Morocco having spent about 2 weeks in Spain to then go to the French Pyrenees. Now, when I say the Pyrenees, this boy is unable to give any precise location, but when you think of his journey, he would have gone through the Western Pyrenees via Perpignan, through Aude, and Ariège. He spent approximately 2 years in these departments without any fixed domicile, so he never stayed for very long in these places. When his mother indicated that she was going to leave with him to Finland, this young man understood that this had to stop. So he then decided to leave the place where he was with his mother, and he went walking for 4 days and 4 nights. He was actually exclusively walking at night and sleeping in the day, where he was in the Western Pyrenees, right up until the place where he was recovered by a young student. I will say more about this later. He therefore walked, and he got food from whatever he found in the fields and the gardens. And he was then found at about 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday by a young man of 26 years of age, a young student who was traveling by car and was a pharmacy delivery driver to make money. So he was there at 3 o'clock in the morning and saw this young man walking alongside the road. He got him to come into his car, and this young person, by the way, he doesn't speak French at all, spoke to him in English. This student understood English, and he explained that he was being searched for, that he wanted protection. At this point, the car driver, who, by the way, quite kindly kept young Alex with him, he finished his delivery drive for the pharmacy, and he then called the number 17. The gendarme asked him to meet in the commune of Saint-Félix-Lauragais, a commune where the services of the police of Villefranche-de-Lauragais, they took over the young man. He was then transported directly to the research brigade. It was nighttime, and it was deemed that given the importance of the affair, a search unit needed to work on the case. To sum up the living conditions of this young man throughout these years, he was living with his mother and his maternal grandfather. He doesn't describe any kind of physical violence without talking about emotional violence, but he didn't describe any kind of physical violence, neither perpetrated by his mother. We can't use the term sect as such, but he talks of a spiritual community. So that is to say that for all these years, this young child then turned adolescent, lived, and we'll need to get more information here, but the mother experienced a sort of phobia about solar panels, and so they were traveling from house to house with solar panels, and they only used car-sharing travel means. They didn't have their own vehicle, always where there were large houses, where there were several families, around 10 people who were coming and going, never the same people. Now, again, what I'm describing is what happened both in Morocco, in Spain, and in France. It was always the same way of living. They got food based on allotments, and there was work on the ego, there was meditation work. There was no connection with the real world. They believed in reincarnation, and the young man specified, yes, he was never trapped.